Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
The Liberals have had many chances to do the right thing for Canadians. Remove corruption from their spending. It's shocking that they actually put it in their budgets. And we've called on them to cut the corruption, save Canadians some money. You know, we have 1 in 4 Canadians who are going to be using food banks this fall. That's a heartbreaking number for me to hear, knowing that in my communities like Brockville and Gananoque, Prescott, South Grenville, food bank use has doubled. And while there are still many generous people in the community who are giving of food and funds, it's also just not going as far as it used to. Even the donations, even the food banks are struggling with life after 9 years of this NDP Liberal government. We heard from the honourable member from Cypress Hills Grasslands today, who talked about the devastating effects of this NDP Liberal Prime Minister's carbon tax. And we had the Canadian Trucking Alliance in the last week speak out about the costs that they're incurring, the billions in increased costs for them that will have to be passed on to consumers, because if you tax the farmer who grows the food and the trucker who ships the food, it's of course a tax on the person who sells it, and the person who buys it is paying that tax. Canadians are having a hard time getting by, and we don't think it'll get any better with Mark Carbon Tax Carney now advising this Prime Minister, knowing his affinity for making others pay. Well, he follows a different set of rules, jet setting around just like the high carbon hypocrite at 24 Sussex, the Prime Minister. Canadians are struggling, and we hear often that the Liberals caution about conservative cuts. Conservatives are going to cut the corruption. We're going to cut the scandals, and we're going to cut the waste. Just look at the billion-dollar green slush fund. Hundreds of thousands of dollars misappropriated that we knew about just when we started out. Now there's the chair of the fund was found to have been in a conflict of interest. Another government-appointed board member as well investigated. The $60 million Arrive scam, 2 guys in a basement, or how we found out that there's this grift, this 30% markup on everything the government outsources. They're spending more than $21 billion in a year outsourcing, and we find out that oftentimes 30% of that is just going to Liberal insiders who line their pockets. Common sense Conservatives have made a commitment to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. And Canadians deserve that. And they deserve a carbon tax election. And we're ready to put that motion before this House at the first available opportunity. But in the meantime, these Liberals need to do one thing. The Parliamentary Secretary can stand and say that they will cut the corruption from their budgets, stop the madness. Canadians deserve better.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of to the Prime Minister and Special Advisor for Water.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate the opportunity to respond to the honourable member's question. Let me start by saying that the government shares the member's concerns and his desire to hold those responsible to account. This is an issue that the government is not taking lightly, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the members of this House and all Canadians are justifiably concerned by what they have been hearing in the media and in the committee. We are using many tools and following many avenues of inquiry to understand what went wrong in the case of ArriveCan. These avenues include the rare and extraordinary measure of a public rebuke in the House, for which the government did vote in favour. This speaks to how seriously we take this issue. This is why we voted for Mr. Firth to present himself here in the House, and that is why we will continue to support the various investigations and inquiries into this matter. While we await the responses that Canadians need and deserve, I can tell you about the swift and decisive actions of this government, the actions that we are taking to strengthen and protect the integrity of government procurement so that something like this can never, ever happen again. When something goes awry, Madam Speaker, the government takes decisive action to restore trust in the system. That's exactly what our government is doing. Budget 2024 clearly outlines the actions we are taking to enforce and uphold the highest standards of procurement to ensure sound stewardship of public funds. They include new steps to strengthen the government's procurement and conflict of interest regimes and updated procurement guidance for managers to reinforce the prudent use of public funds. This means examining human resources and staffing strategies before procuring professional services, strict evaluation criteria when a supplier is selected, clear due diligence protocols to ensure no conflict of interest, and ensuring all contractual obligations are upheld by third-party vendors. It also includes government-wide audits to ensure governance, decision-making, and controls associated with professional service contracts uphold the highest ethical standards. The results of these audits are expected by the end of this year, Madam Speaker. Changes are also underway to modernize the new master-level user agreements for professional services supply arrangement to improve transparency regarding costing and subcontractors. And we will launch a new risk and compliance process to ensure government-wide trends, risks, and departmental performance meet the highest standards and take corrective actions whenever necessary as soon as possible. We are also bringing forward stronger accountability guidelines for managers when procuring professional services, including robust validation that a potential contractor is the best fit for the requirements. Madam Speaker, my time is winding down, as I'm sure you're about to tell me. And just to say in closing, Madam Speaker, our government is committed to ensuring Canadian tax dollars are used wisely and responsibly. We recognize the seriousness of the ArriveCan issue, and I want to assure Canadians that we will be acting swiftly and decisively to ensure that it cannot happen again. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
The parliamentary secretary claims that they're good stewards and responsibly and ensuring responsible and wise use of tax dollars. Talked about taking it seriously, wanting to get to the bottom of it. My question is very, very simple. In this $60 million Arrive scam scandal that lies at the feet of this Liberal Prime Minister, himself twice found guilty of breaking ethics laws, that member, the Cabinet, the Prime Minister, and all members over there voted against having the Auditor General investigate. Why? Why, if they wanted to get to the bottom of it? Why, if they weren't trying to protect their friends and Liberal insiders? Why, if they wanted to do the right thing for Canadians, even if it made them look bad, would they not allow Canada's Auditor General to investigate? So but it passed the House without the Liberals, without that member support. So my question is, why did he and his government vote against the Auditor General?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. Perhaps the honourable member did not hear me, but just to repeat, the Government of Canada is committed to ensuring Canadian tax dollars are used wisely and responsibly. The issues that have emerged around the procurement of professional IT services and the management of the ArriveCan application are indeed deeply troubling. We know from the reports of various investigations into the matter that Canada's procurement system can be strengthened and improved, and that's exactly what we are doing. Budget 2024 outlines the important steps we are taking to enforce and uphold the highest standards of procurement to ensure sound stewardship of public funds. Madam Speaker, we will continue to actively explore all possible ways to further bolster our processes. We are working relentlessly to make sure that what happened in the case of ArriveCan does not happen again. I want to thank you, Madam Speaker.